Welcome to the latest Ask the Cabinet podcast. I'm here with the leader of Peterborough City Council, Dennis Jones, and Councillor Angus Ellis, who is Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport. How are we both?
Very fine, John. Thank you very much.
Good.
Fine, and the sun's out today. It's nice
Is it
summer.
really?
It is decent.
Yeah, it's
isn't
come
it?
out
Is it
again.
really?
It's come out today.
Thing is, I know it's been very hot weather recently as well. A lot of people sort of complaining.
It's too hot for me.
Too hot for
Way
you?
too hot for
I love it. Love all this.
me. Do you?
Yeah, because people will be in a month or so, or three. People will be completely. Yeah, exactly. Oh God, where's the sun
live
gone
in the
there?
Driest region of the
Yeah.
country. Never forget that. So we need the rain.
Okay. Let us move on. Topic number one that I've got to talk about is fly tipping, which is mainly for you, Councillor Ellis. We, as a council, have hailed the e-permit scheme that was introduced as a success. That was the PT's headline. We introduced that in February. Reasoning being obviously that the household recycling centre, one of the reasons was we were getting residents from outside Peterborough using it, and we wanted to cut that down a bit. It's very easy to get the e-permit scheme, and apparently more than 28,000 residents have applied for the permit since applications open, which is tremendous, I would say. So what would you say, Councillor Ellis, to people who, there was a lot of people who said when it first opened that scheme, that it might lead to more fly tipping.
Well, the two subjects are separate. Fly tipping is a big problem, which we're doing lots of things to deal with. And the e-permit scheme at the Household Waste Recycling Centre is something else. I'll talk about the Household Waste Recycling Centre first. That has been introduced, these permits, which are really easy to apply for. Just go online to apply for them. And that's been introduced because previously we had problems with capacity at the centre, because basically we were nearly acting as a regional centre, because lots of people from other council areas were coming in. Mm-hmm. Some other council areas don't have 7 day a week coverage.
Yeah.
They're only open for perhaps 4 days a week or 5 days a week. People perhaps in neighbouring boundaries, because we've got South Lincolnshire just across the boundary from us.
Yeah.
They would have to travel to other places like Bourne or somewhere which were perhaps further away.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't afford to run a regional centre. This centre is for Peterborough. It's paid for by Peterborough taxpayers, and in order to make sure we've got enough capacity, that's why we brought in this really easy, as I say, to apply for scheme where you just go online. You can ring up on the telephone as well to get your permit, and once you got it, that's it. You don't have to do it every time. You just show it. Just check it on, when you go in, and yeah,
And that's it.
That's it. There's no connection whatsoever to fly tipping. We found, and there's evidence of that. In fact, there's been a reduction in fly tip in the first 3 months of 2025 compared to 2024. Since the centre's been opened, there's actually less fly tipping, and that's because of stuff we're doing on fly tipping. But it definitely shows that there's no link between the Household Recycling Centre permits and increased fly tipping.
Okay.
Moving that along to fly tipping, the big issue, there is a problem with fly tipping, and we're taking action on that. That I set up a working group from the scrutiny group to look at additional things that can be done. We got extra funding for about 9 or 10 cameras, extra cameras around, especially around the city centre in North Ward, Central Ward, and in the rural areas. I went out. I did 2 shadow visits. One was with Jamie McFarlane, who investigates fly tips, sees if he can find evidence to who's done it. That was very interesting. Very smelly though. We literally opened up bags of rubbish to see if there was evidence of addresses and stuff, and in some cases there was, so we could take prosecution action against those people. So we did that, and then a couple months later, or a few months later, I went round with the clearance teams who go round to the where you reported when you reported on Fix My Street, and please keep doing that so that we can any big hotspots or any big fly tips, we can get them cleared, because the worst thing you want to do is just leave them, because then other people think, oh, they've done it, I can fly tip. It is a big problem. The worst thing is people doing it. I urge people not to do it, and if you see somebody do it, take a photograph, take some video footage, but keep safe.
Yeah.
Don't go up. Get
Challenge
yourself punched in the face. Definitely don't do that. But do keep evidence reported to us so we can take action. And we're looking at, so we're doing a lot of extra work on that. Things are improving. We still got quite a lot of fly tips, but things are improving. And it's it's one of my missions is to reduce the fly tipping across Peterborough to the point where, well, it'd be lovely if we don't ever get any. The other big problem is commercial commercial rogue traders. Somebody knocks on your door and says, "Oh, do you want me to do your garden for you, or do you want me to clear that rubbish for you? I'll do it for 20 quid." And you say, "Oh, 20 quid, yeah." Don't, because you don't know where they're going to dump that rubbish. If they're doing that, they probably haven't got a commercial waste license to take, because they can't take it to the household waste recycling centre because they're a commercial company. They have to go somewhere else and they have to pay a separate license for that.
And you will be prosecuted. It's
Yeah,
no
and
excuse to say,
Yeah, exactly.
well, these guys turned up.
You are responsible. So if you do you ask them to see their waste carrier license, and or just say no. If
And all the
if you're
information.
worried about it, just say no and contact the council. Council will be able to perhaps we should, and this is perhaps something we need to look at more, is about advertising those ones which have carrier licenses. Advertising it, or go to your household waste recycling centre or book a doorstep collection. And also a lot of areas in Peterborough, city councillors in Dogsthorpe, like parish councils, like the Breton Parish Council, they do regular or semi-regular but bulky waste collections, which are very popular.
Okay.
And you could take them to different points. So yeah, please, yeah.
The only thing I'd add to that is you probably heard Angus mention Fix My Street, and speak to your local councillor or get details, because it's an app. It's easily downloaded. Anybody who uses a smartphone can use it, and it picks out the exact location where you can use it. And indeed, that will help, because that reports matters to us and we can clear it.
Okay. I was going to move on to Lincoln Road. So we know that obviously there's a road closure there at the moment. It's going to be there for some period of time. While that part of the city centre is earmarked for several £1 million worth of upgrades, basically. And it will be for quite a long time. It's going to be spring 2026 before that is finished, we believe. Various things being done: cycle stands, improved paving, raised pedestrian crossing points, electric vehicle charging points. I'm just wondering, first of all, we've got the justification for it here for doing it, but are you sympathetic? I'll go to you on this one, Dennis. You can come in. It's conversational, both of you. I mean, you can imagine some of the comments that we've had about multiple things. One, both from the businesses that are being affected, and to be quite honest, a lot of people saying that very critical of that area of the city being improved. I'm just going to read out a couple. Sarah will eat. This particular area will be ruined within a week of the improvements finishing. Many in this area don't care about their environment. Steve Throop says, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I'm not going to go through. There's lots like that. So what would you say to people like...
I think it's always... we can never do enough. No administration in any local authority can ever do enough for the public realm. There just isn't the money, there isn't the time, and obviously we can't have that disruption ongoing for years and years. And I also think it's deeply unfair about saying about things like making a silk purse out of a sow's ear. One of the things is this is a residential area of Peterborough. It's a cafe culture. There are many ethnic shops down there. There are people who live, work, and socialise in that area. And I think we should be doing something for everybody, every community right across the city. We'd love to do more on Lincoln Road, not less. We'd love to do more. But this is a start, and this is where we hope, again, with improving the public realm in that area, and eventually moving the bus station, which is one of our long-term aims, will see a huge improvement. And I hope the naysayers will then see that what we're doing is a legacy for the future rather than any sort of nod to the past.
You mean the bus depot, don't you?
The bus station.
Depot.
Bus depot.
Yeah.
Bus depot, not the bus station.
Yeah.
You're quite right. That's in different parts.
Oh no.
I mean, it should. There is a long-term aim for this, isn't there?
I'll add in, because I'm also a Park Ward councillor, and I have part of Lincoln Road in my ward, and other ward councillors, North Ward and Central Ward, also have parts of Lincoln Road. And yes, it needs improvement. But I know people have been asking for it for a long time, and there is going to be disruption whilst this work is done, and we understand that. We've done walkarounds. We've called around older businesses. We've put things. We've worked with the planning and the transport team to put things in place, temporary things in place to help with things like deliveries to their businesses, to and from their businesses. So work is ongoing. We're working with the community, with the businesses, with the shops, with the residents in that area, to try and, any disruption, try to keep it to a minimum. But when you can make, you can't, but yeah, it's going to be, there's a lot of work being done to widen pavements, make a much nicer place. So there is going to be disruption while it's being done. It's going to be so much nicer once it's done. And, it's money from government we're getting. It's a 3.4 million project. It's going to improve the area and be a catalyst for, future improvements that we can look at as well.
It's a good point. It's towns funded, and I'd also like to say a big thank you to the communities team. One of our officers, Nisha Beg Khan, and her colleagues, they've been up and down that road speaking to everybody, and the buy-in they've had has been absolutely tremendous. So there's been a huge amount of stakeholder engagement, and as Angus quite rightly said, this is funded by the Towns Fund. This is government money, so this is in addition to, not instead of, doing things elsewhere.
Any queries, any issues that people have whilst work's been done, contact your ward councillors, and then we'll talk to the teams and find ways around it.
Yeah, I mean it's showing as a council. I mean, obviously you've said we would like to do it in all areas, solve all the city's problems and things, but it's showing a bit of faith in that community as well to be able to, isn't it?
It very much is.
Yep.
It's been a neglected part of the city through nobody individually, but this is a chance to revitalise and refresh and make this a place where people want to go, and that is what I certainly want to see.
And it's one of our biggest and busiest and most vibrant shopping, dining areas. If you look at that, it does. You've got a city centre, and then you've got Lincoln Road. They're the two of the busiest and most vibrant used areas in Peterborough.
When I drive back, my little girl does gymnastics over the other side of it. So when we drive back, and on summer, and there's all sorts going on, and people are enjoying themselves there.
Yeah.
I might say it would be quite nice if there were other areas that did have that vibrancy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Across them as well.
And that's what we want to do. We want to enhance it, not kill it.
Absolutely. I'm just going to move on now to TK Maxx. Another one that's obviously in the news as well. Maybe, Dennis, you would just give us an overview of where we are with TK Maxx at the moment.
Again, from government money, the Towns Fund, TK Maxx was bought prior to COVID, and it was bought for something like £4 million, and it doesn't meet the requirements for which it was purchased. So what we're tasked with now, as a nascent administration, we've only been in a year, is obviously looking at ways that we can recoup that money and reallocate it to some of the other projects that will bear far greater fruit than TK Maxx. So we're now going out to market to see who wants to buy it, how much they're willing to pay, and just as importantly for the public realm again is what they want to do with it.
I was just going to say, what you say it's not really ideal for what it was originally planned for. So what has exactly changed in the time? We bought it in 2020. What's changed in the intervening?
I think it's the costs involved. Times have changed. The costs have escalated. the reasons for why it was purchased originally are no longer. We have it will cost too much to do what we originally planned with it. So the idea is to now put it on the market and sell it.
Okay. People will probably criticise that about the whole process of what's happened. I mean, what would you say to them? You can't predict the future.
We're public servants. There are decisions that are made, in time. In hindsight, everything looks better in hindsight. What we've got to do is, rather than criticise other people for decisions that were made on their watch, what we now have to do for the people of Peterborough is do the best we can from here going forward. We can't change the past. We can't, as you just said, predict the future. What we have to do is deal with what we can see and hear now, and we have to deal with that in that vein.
And we do have things, hopefully, that will be exciting in the 3 sites that will have an offering. We've got the cultural offer that's going to come to the Central Library, food and drinks hall at the Good Shed, which would be great if it happens, and business startup incubator as well at Peters Court. So if all those come off, that will be a really exciting thing for the system.
I think what the message I'd like to get out, John, is the fact that what we have to do is make sure that the governance is correct on all these things. It's not just about the finances, it's making sure that all the checks and balances that are needed when purchases like this are made, they're all in place. And that, I think, is the duty of any administration, to make sure that we future-proof decisions as far as possible without having a crystal ball.
Let's move on to the local government reorganisation. I like that face.
That face was just one that.
I'll
I'm
leave that one to you.
living and breathing this every week.
Yeah. First of all, and this might be a comment about comms, if you like, as well.
Yeah.
Do you think enough people are aware of it, of the surveys and the engagement that are going on? And do you think enough people are aware, maybe, of what it will mean, what it could mean, or do you know what it could mean? Sorry, if we're trying to reorganise into 3 possibilities or 4 for how many different councils we have, what's the?
Okay, I think I read a paper yesterday or the day before, and from memory, about 40% were positive about it. A similar number were ambivalent or neutral about it, and only 9% were against it. Now, you can read that one of 2 ways: is that the people who are dead against it are in a very, very tiny minority, but I'm also cautious the fact that there's 40-odd% who are ambivalent or perhaps don't really know. And I think what we have to do, one of the things we've tried to do as this administration, is be as consultative as we possibly can. And there is a survey that finishes on the 20th of July, and we really do want people to engage in that survey to tell us what they think. And I'm a great believer, when you read what's going on, when you talk to people, that gives you a greater understanding, because this is the most fundamental change in local government in 50 years in this area. We became a unitary authority in 1997, but to be fair, if you spoke to most people, what's a unitary authority? Yeah. What's a district council? So this is quite a shake-up, and I think most people, as long as they feel that they're getting the services and the economies of scale that we're trying to bring, then it will be less of an issue. But we are reorganising. The objective is, instead of Westminster telling this area, this region, how to spend the money and how much they can spend, there will be a budget that's allocated to the elected mayor for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and the new authorities that will then form part of that will have a greater say about how much money is allocated to them and what they can do with it. So we're hoping for economies of scale, greater improvements. The other thing people often forget, for every pound that this authority gets in, 77 pence goes out on children and adults. That is quite so. Only 23 pence is doing all the other things, the public realm, all the improvements that we can make. And one thing I will say about our replacing economy team it costs roughly £65 million to run this city. And we bring in, through things like parking and charges, we bring in about 45 million pounds. So we're running the city on about 20 million. You think on a population of nigh on 220,000 people, there's 65 million to run it. That's
Yeah.
in addition. This is, things like the parking that you pay for, whilst people always moan about parking charges, and don't we all? I don't pay for parking unless I have to. But the one thing I would like to say is that you are offsetting the charges, the running costs of the city, and that's why we need more footfall in the city. We need more people opening businesses, the right kind of businesses that add value to the city. But that's where I'd encourage people to do it.
That's one of the things we often get, isn't it? Why don't you have free parking on this day or this day or this? And it's, as you said, it's just not really viable, is it? And
it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Okay. I don't know whether you wanted to add.
Yeah, just add as well when you say about parking, but not everybody drives, and we do need for the environment and to reduce congestion. We do, we need, more bus routes. We need people to use the buses more, public transport, cycling, cycle routes. So yeah, that's part of my remit with climate change and with environment and transport is, we've got schemes you'd probably see around some of the roadworks that's to improve the highways or improve with new cycle routes like the one going through Fort Wood. And then there's other plans, and and we'll be looking to the future to put forward additional bus routes to the combined authority, who will be looking at doing bus franchising, where instead of it all being dictated by the bus operators, it will be dictated. The routes will be dictated by the combined authority, and they will choose bus operators to run them. So it will be more led by need of the passengers rather than by a commercial business deciding.
Just as a little aside, how are you getting on with the combined authority mayor?
Okay, I mean we have our political differences, but they are political differences. And as the leader of Peterborough, my job is to represent Peterborough, and that I will do to the best of my ability. But I do have to take things in the round that affects the whole of the combined authority. So I can't do everything in splendid isolation. So hopefully we'll continue to negotiate and get good deals for the city and indeed for the combined authority.
I sent this to you last week, Dennis, just briefly, that a press release that was announced by Centre for Cities, a report that they said Peterborough is in the bottom 10, or the best 10, if you like, percent for highest vacancy rates. So it's very strong. Out of the 63 biggest towns and cities in the country, we finished 53rd and one of the lowest vacancy rates in the entire city. Sorry, in the entire country, I should just say. Apparently, they calculated the estimated city centre high street vacancy rate is 10.3%. Some of them were up around the 20%. I think it was Newport and Bradford, maybe. So it just goes to show that things aren't all bad. Things might be closing and stuff. And we've spoken about this before. The city centre is still pretty vibrant. There is still a good retail economy. One of the things that I'm going out a little bit later on, we've got some a new city centre policing team as well. I didn't know whether you wanted to speak about that a little bit. I mean, for instance, that's something that's very welcome, obviously, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, on the Centre for Cities, politics is an opinion business. Okay, everybody will have an opinion, and they're entitled to that opinion. But it's better, in my opinion, to deal in facts. So when you see this, I always look for context. People say that Peterborough is terrible, it's the worst place to live in the country, and this kind of belies that it's not true. We have a good city centre. Can we make it better? My ambition is to see a thriving cafe culture, and I want to see more police. I want to see more security so that people can wander around. I talk often about an evening economy. I want people to come in, have a beer or a coffee or something to eat and feel that they're not going to be accosted by people who, frankly, they're not homeless people. They are often professional beggars. And one of the things we want to do is make the city centre safer. that's been recognised by the police, and we're getting an extra sergeant, and we're getting, I think you say, extra police constables who then have greater powers in terms of enforcement. So we want to give people not only the confidence, whether they're coming by bus, whether they're coming by car, we want people to want to come into the city centre in greater numbers and enjoy the facilities that we've got. And that then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People want to occupy the shops because there's people who want to come through the doors. The world has changed now, the way that people shop, and it's not going to go the Pandora is out of the box, Amazon and it's Cllr here to stay, but it doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't have a thriving commercial, cultural and offer that we can extend to people from Peterborough and a wider area.
I think this one's more for you, Angus. I think about our 3 parks that have retained the Green Flag Award,
Yep.
which is excellent news.
It certainly is.
Central Park, Itter Park, Manor Farm Park.
Yeah, I visited Manor Farm Park on, let's get a day right, Tuesday, when they've regained the green flag. I think it's quite a few years they've won it. Retained it.
Manor Farm,
Retained.
13 consecutive.
That's it. Yeah, I knew it was
Central
quite a few.
Park,
22.
Yeah, this is the
And Itter Park as well. I've retained it as well. It is brilliant news.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work which is done there, especially by volunteers. I was taken when I went to Manor Farm Park I was taken round by one of the volunteers, looked around the park. So, okay, there's a play area, there's a skateboard park, but there's a lovely green area, there's an outdoor gym, but there's also things they put in like a wildflower area, and there's also a little a woodland area, sort of you can go through the trees with sort of a trail there that people can use with a few obstacle things. It's really lovely, natural, and that's what we love to see. Central Park's brilliant there. It's got lots of attractions. There's a paddling pool there. There's an aviary. There's play areas, a lovely cafe, and it's a park as well. You know, they have different sports things in these parks like tennis courts, cafes, some kiosks. Please do visit them. They are wonderful, you know, lovely, peaceful places, like lovely places in the urban areas. Other parks are available, like the one in Bretton Park. Just because there's parks which haven't got a flag award doesn't mean they're not good as well. They are lovely as well. And please visit all of our parks in Peterborough. And the key message is that there's a lot of work going on with the volunteers, with Peterborough Limited, you know, keeping these parks, you know, up to date and keeping them clean and making them really lovely to visit. Thank you to everything volunteers and the staff do. And I'm lucky because, you know, I've got Central Park in Park Ward, which I'm a councillor for, and it's a lovely place to visit, as are the others. And the other thing which was key, and which was really impressed me about the one in and did that same in the other ones, is that there were areas of we call biodiversity. I went to a climate change conference yesterday, and it's key that we have these little areas where there's wildflowers, where the grass isn't cut, to, you know, to keep the wildlife going, because it's very important going forward that we keep, you know, that I don't know the word, biocycle of environments going for the future. So that really impressed me as well.
Yeah, it's just, I wonder whether if people know about these little parks, these little jewels around the city, the hidden ones. I mean, Central Park, that's right near where I live on Broadway. Absolutely amazing. A lot of the time, and a morning jog through there, which I still try and do every so often, is something that I, you know, really, really enjoy.
It's they're oases. I mean, you know, as Angus rightly said, is most of the parks. I've got a couple of small parks in my ward, and they are little oases. But the bigger parks, the ones that you're talking about, the green flag, to retain that status. And, you know, I do appreciate what Angus is saying, is a lot of this is done by volunteers as well. And the enthusiasm that they show is just an absolute credit to the city. And along with, obviously, the paid staff who do it. So I doff my cap to few, but the people who do that.
Just a little add-on when we're talking about volunteers, something which I didn't say earlier, the work that some volunteers do, people like Peterborough Wombles, for example, the litter picks they do, we get involved with them as and when we can as well. But they do a lovely extra job helping us out.
I was just going to have a word with you both about sort of June the 18th, that meeting. That was it's good to move on from that. What are your ambitions for the next year or so now that we've moved on from that?
I think the major thing for me is that it was unfortunate that it happened, and but I said in my column in the local paper is I'm not a triumphalist. It's time to move on. It's time that we all work together. We work better together than we do pulling ourselves asunder, and very simplistically keeping the wheels on the track, because this city is not out of the woods financially, and the financial envelope isn't going to get any bigger anytime soon. So the more that we bang the drum, one of the things that I'd like people to get behind, we've got the Doctor Who exhibition. We have some, for people who are old enough to remember, albums, LPs. There's some amazing artwork at the museum. We've got further exhibitions coming up towards the back end of this year. And we're going to have a literacy festival where we're going to have actors like Simon Callow and Christopher Eccleston, who are giving their time for nothing. Simon Callow is actually going to be a patron of that festival. And so what we really want to do, we're even going to have a mini fringe festival in Peterborough next year. That's planned. And one of the things is to create a real buzz, a real vibe about the place where people want to come to the city. And it's about staying here and wanting to be here. And what I'm hoping is that the people, all the councillors now get behind that and say, next year, there's likely to be elections and democracy should be decided at the ballot box. And the good people of Peterborough, I would encourage them. Our average turnout for elections is about 28-30%. If it can be more like general elections and get it to 60%, then more people have the say and they have the right to decide who runs this city.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add, Angus? You're looking forward to the next year or so? Yeah,
but there's a lot to be done. There are financial pressures, but we've got ambitions for the city. We want, move, there's things we want to try and deliver on and move forward on the developments, on improvements in the city, things we talked about earlier. Also, things like within my brief, the things to combat climate change, improved bus routes, improved cycle routes. So looking at a whole range of travel and looking at a whole range of the environment. As I said right at the beginning, reducing fly tipping, and making sure that the city is clean, green, and going.
A cleaner, greener, healthier, sustainable city.
Yeah.
This is the thing. No vanity projects. We want to move away from either building or doing things just for the sake of it. Going back to where we started with Lincoln Road, it's to make the public realm somewhere that people can be proud of.
Yeah.
And it's paid for, it's safe, it's sustainable, and it adds to the value of the city as a whole. And when you've got such low vacancy rates, high occupancy rates, we're also one of the top cities for business startups. That's quite a compelling argument for people to want to come to Peterborough. Let's be honest, we're 45 minutes from central London, with a gateway to the whole of the east of England. And this city, we want to see the city really punch its weight going forward in terms of public transport, the buildings that we have, the utilities that are coming here. And if that is our legacy, then that's something I think I'd be very proud of.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's a good place to finish.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And we will be back for the next Ask the Cabinet in a couple of months' time.